Hey guys, it's Amy. Thanks for watching. Today's video is going to be a little different. Not so much different because I have done things like this in the past. I'm going to be talking about my mental health and how it's affected me my whole life. And I've done that with, I've done my lupus story, I've touched on mental health in at least 2 other videos. My anxiety, bipolar, depression, and everything, and I don't really know how this video is gonna go. I really don't. I don't have much planned out for it, but I am just going to talk and see what comes out, see if I like it, see if I think that it will speak to anyone. That is my hope, that it does speak to somebody. That is why I started my channel. I'm not doing this to jump on the train of, I have anxiety, I have this, I have that. I haven't posted for a week. I have 3 vlogs that should be, uploaded by now, but I'm only in the middle of editing the first one, and then now I'm filming this. So this is gonna go up first, and then the 3 vlogs. And so I'm hoping to have 4 videos this week, but who knows, it might just be this one. I might not even have the guts to publish this one. So yeah, that has been the goal of my channel, is to raise awareness and to use makeup, beauty, whatever. Like right now, I just got ready and I started doing my makeup and I didn't like my eyeshadow, so for the first time ever I wiped it off and I started it all over again. I'm like, I'm not messing with shadows that I don't like, that I can't work with, that they're not working the way that I want them to. Like, I'm gonna wipe the slate clean and I am going to choose to do this the right way. And don't know if I did, but at least I'm pleased with how it turned out. And the whole point of it is that, like, I get into like a meditative state while I'm doing my makeup, and it's just the whole process of it for me is really great. And yeah, so anyway, before I keep babbling on, if you would like to see or hear what I have to say, then just keep on watching. Okay, so we are going to go way back. way back. My mental illnesses started a long time ago. I'm not exactly sure when, but I do know that my first bouts of self-harm were when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I'm not exactly sure. I know I was in 4th grade, so I'm assuming that's about the age I was, but I don't know for sure. And then really nothing after that until I was 11. And that was when my severe anxiety started. And when I say severe, I mean debilitating severe. And I lived with it until I was 22. I went through middle school, high school, and college afraid to go to class, afraid to raise my hand, afraid to talk to my friends, afraid to, run into someone for fear of like not knowing what to say. Like, of course I went through, since I am bipolar, I went through manic states where those things didn't affect me, but for the most part, I fluctuated. I was actually pretty consistent in being bipolar, and that I would be manic, I would be neutral, I would be depressed. I would be neutral, I would be manic, I would be depressed. And neutral, I went through like the phases and, had my downtime, like my middle ground time. So it didn't really catch on because I hid the depression pretty darn well. the neutral times were just that. They were fairly neutral. And the manic times, I was really outgoing and having fun and hanging out with my friends all the time. And so there was really no reason for anyone to suspect that anything was going on. I mean, maybe the depression stuff, somebody should have seen it, but, you know, they didn't, and that's all there is to it. It's not, you know, I'm not blaming anybody. But to add to it, I had the anxiety, and then to add to that, I had something a lot more serious, which was borderline personality disorder. And I don't know if you've seen the movie Girl Interrupted with Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie, but I mean, that wasn't me, but it was me. They didn't really show her, you know, except for a few flashback quick scenes. They didn't show her outside of the hospital environment. So, I don't really know what she was like. I did read the book. The book's a little bit different than the movie, but the book is very short. And it doesn't really, from what I remember, I read it when I was 21 or 22, and I'm 39 now, so it's been a while. So I don't remember exactly, but it didn't, it wasn't like as expansive as the movie became. And borderline, which I have a book right here. Okay. This book it's been through the ringer. It's called I Hate You, Don't Leave Me, Understanding the Borderline Personality. And I'm going to preface all of this with saying that I am recovered from having borderline personality disorder. It's no longer on my chart. We no longer discuss it. I never took medicine for it because there is no medicine for it. There's only behavioral therapy, and that's what makes it so scary. There's this quote, and I was searching for it, and I can't find it. I know it's in one of my books here, and I can't find a couple of my books, but it says that a clinical psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever the case may be, would rather have a paranoid schizophrenic in their office than someone with borderline personality disorder. And that is because a paranoid schizophrenic can be medicated and calmed down. Someone with borderline cannot. And I know this to be extremely true. I was once told, well, my boyfriend at the time, when I was 19, was told that a cop, that if I had had a knife in my hands, that I would have killed him because I was beating on him relentlessly. Just, he was taller than me. He was like 6'1" or something. But I was just beating on him. I was so pissed off. I have no idea why I was angry. Not a clue. I used to get angry at everything, and there was no logic or reason to it. Yeah, well, to finish this, you know, I just kept beating on like his shoulders and his chest and his arms, and it was really, really, really bad. They had to separate us. They ended up taking him home in the cop car, and I got to stay. It was at a sorority dance, and I stayed with my friends, but he went home since you know, couldn't stay the night anyway. So the cops took him home. But my first boyfriend, who was like my biggest heartbreak ever, I only dated him like 9 months, but I was 15 and 16 years old when we were together. And he wasn't my first boyfriend. He was the first boy I fell in love with. And and the first boy who said he loved me as well. And we were both in the same boat. We were each other's, first loves. So anyway, he got to the point where he couldn't handle me, and I heard from my friends that he broke up with me, which was so traumatic. Oh my gosh, we would ask my mom about that day when I came home after school. Oh, he gave me a ride home and then broke up with me, and it was wow. But anyway, our friends basically said that I got mad too easily, and he didn't like it, which who would like someone getting mad at them all the time? I've had it happen to me, and I sure don't like it. I've been in controlling relationships and, abusive relationships, and which, as a side note, I think I put myself into those situations to punish myself for how I had acted for so long, or for how I was acting. I knew what I was capable of, so I was like, I don't deserve any better than how this person is treating me. So I ended up in an abusive marriage, a controlling relationship, and then another controlling/abusive relationship. And that was a good more than a decade, like 12, 13 years of my life. When you put them all together, they were all like back to back to back. And yeah, so anyway, I'm just going to read the back of this book. It says, people with borderline personality disorder experience such violent and frightening mood swings that they often fear for their sanity. They can be euphoric one moment, despairing and depressed the next. There are an estimated 10 million sufferers of BPD living in America today, each displaying remarkably similar symptoms. And that's the one thing that's scary about it, is that I wasn't diagnosed with borderline for a really long time. Like, I had read about it and I had an inkling that I had it, but until I actually had psychological testing done, I didn't know that I had borderline, and I also didn't definitively know that I had bipolar, and that didn't happen until I was close to 30. But yeah, it says they can be euphoric one moment, despairing and depressed the next. Well, so can people with bipolar disorder. So these problems, these diseases and disorders overlap each other so much and intertwine that, and sorry, I have like this eyelash tool in my hand, but it's like helping me to play with something, so I put on my lashes with this today. So anyway, that's that. If you happen to see it, that's what I'm holding. But it says, okay, these symptoms are a shaky sense of identity, sudden violent outbursts, oversensitivity to real or imagined rejection, brief turbulent love affairs, frequent periods of intense depression, eating disorders, drug abuse, and other self-destructive tendencies, and an irrational fear of abandonment and an inability to be alone. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's what I thought. 7 symptoms. If you have 4 out of the 7, you are considered to be borderline. You're considered to have borderline personality disorder. Along with, you can't just say like, oh, hey, yeah, I feel that way. I feel like that's me. I feel like that's me. That's me. That's me. You have to have documented incidents in the past that led you to, that can prove that that's the way that you are. And I have many. I have many that prove that I've had manic phases. I have many that prove that I had depressive phases. I have many that prove that I've had violent phases. The shaky sense of identity, oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, everybody could say that to an extent, but I mean, it goes above and beyond with this. The sudden violent outburst, that was my anger. My anger was horrible. I remember asking one friend who was friends with an ex-boyfriend, and I was still friends with ex-boyfriends as well. And I asked the friend if he liked my ex's new girlfriend. And he was just like, well, she sure yells a lot less than you. And I'm like, noted, you know, like I can't deny that. So, brief, turbulent love affairs. I have only had 1 year in my entire life where I have been single. And that was a few years ago. Ever since I was 14. And I would just go through boyfriends like that, and they could be long. I actually dated people like for a long period of time, like, you know, a year, 2 years, year and a half, you know, even up to 4 years and 5 years. My marriage was only 2.5, but, and that was from like start to finish. We weren't actually together that whole time because I had left him. But I'm glad I checked my monitor, because if I had been talking when my camera cut out, I would have been really upset. So yeah, I'm going to switch it over right now just so that I can catch it. Okay, so we'll start over at 20 minutes. But my relationships were extremely turbulent, fighting all the time. I cried every single day of my life for probably, I don't know, 17, 18 years. And now I don't cry at all. That's why, like, I knew I could put on false eyelashes. I knew I could put on makeup, because I knew I wasn't going to cry in this video, because I was going to be contemplative and, you know, spewing up facts and things like that, and kind of talking to myself from an talking about myself to myself. No, I don't do that. From an outside perspective. Although I did bawl my eyes out yesterday when I saw A Star Is Born. I do have to say that. But, okay, frequent periods of intense depression. Yes, I have that. Don't know if that, I mean, the doctors I have seen and the therapists mostly have said that it's not necessarily all bipolar, that it is the borderline. So it's kind of a different type of shorter depression, I guess. It's not such a long state that brings you down quite so far, and you can pop out of it a little bit easier. I don't really know the difference, but they have been able to clarify it for me in the past, and it made sense. Eating disorders, I've never had a problem with that. Drug abuse, yeah, and alcohol, and other self-destructive tendencies. I already mentioned the self-harm. That hasn't been a huge thing for me, but I did, like I said, when I was 8 or 9, I did, and I didn't even know it was a thing until I watched Girl Interrupted about a week ago, maybe, I'd say. And for some reason, it just, like, it had always kind of clicked with me a little, but I never wanted to research it. When they say at the beginning that she's a wrist banger, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I know my mom's going to be watching this and she doesn't know everything about me. Said she was a wrist banger, so I looked it up on Google, of course, And basically it's somebody who takes their wrist or their head and bangs it against a hard object, and when you do it for so long, if you do it over years, it can cause major damage to the nerves and cause you to not be able to use your hand properly. I mean, it's a really serious thing. And I remember being in the stalls of my bathroom in elementary school, and I opened up the door a little bit so that the part where the door like connects to was right there, and I would just bang my wrist, like the side of my wrist, against it. And then I must have done it like only on days that I went to my dad's house. I don't know. My parents divorced when I was 1, so I was always kind of going back and forth. I mean, I was mostly with my mom, but I saw my dad every Wednesday and every other weekend, and so I must have done it when I went to his house, because I remember asking him a couple of times for an ace bandage, and I think that was my way of, you know, kind of getting attention for it, and maybe him even finding out so that it would stop, because I was just, I mean, I was younger than my kid is now, and I can't imagine my kid doing anything like that. I just, it's insane to me to think, I mean, not to use this term insane loosely, I'm just saying, you know, it's odd to me that a child of that age would sit there and deliberately harm themselves. I have some scars on my legs from cutting, and I have some scars right here from cutting. I've never done much on my wrists. So as far as self-harm, like, that's really the extent of it for me. But then there's the irrational fear of abandonment and an inability to be alone. And inability to be alone. Okay. Yeah. That's not me anymore, thankfully, but it was me for a good 30 years, 20 years, you know, I mean the first 10 years of my life or whatever. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons for it. I'm not going to go into any of them. I mean, I have abandonment issues. I definitely do. But I think I'm okay being alone now. I think I am. But it was really severe, and that's why I always had boyfriends. I would either have a boyfriend, break up with him, and then go to somebody else, or what was most likely the case, usually the case, was I had already met somebody else, and then I left my boyfriend for this other person. Because I always left before I could be left. Always. Like, my 5-year relationship, we were together for 4 years. He broke up with me and he moved out. And then we got back together about a year later for about 6 months. And then it was pretty darn mutual at that point that, you know, we realized it just wasn't going to work. So he likes to say he broke up with me, but if he wants to think that, that's fine. But I definitely did not want to be with him. And that was when I actually started, like, was healing, was working on getting better. And that's another thing. A lot of people with borderline and bipolar, and I'm bipolar 1, which means I have full-blown manic episodes. They're not just hypomanic, and which is bipolar 2, when you just have like kind of baby, they call it baby bipolar, but they're like baby manic episodes, like never anything that like is going to send you to the hospital, or things like, you know, bring cops into the situation, which has had, I've had the cops come a few times. I was in the hospital for 5 days one time, and then I was in the hospital overnight one time. And with the hospital situations, I admitted myself. I went to the hospital of my own volition, and I was like, yeah, something's wrong. This has to be taken care of. But yeah, I was just never ever able to be alone. And even now, I don't know if something were to happen with Mike and me, would I go to another boyfriend? Would I stay alone? There's Mike right now. Hello? Okay, so yeah, that was Mike. Kind of weird. But if anything were ever to happen and we were, would split up, I would hope that I would stay single, but I honestly don't know, because even though I'm recovered, that doesn't mean that, everything's fixed with me. And plus I still have the bipolar to deal with, which, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's something short in this book about bipolar. It's the autobiography of Patty Duke, and it's called Call Me Anna, and it is one of the best books. This is good for somebody who has bipolar disorder to read. There's another book that I can't find anywhere, and I own 2 copies of it. It is called An Unquiet Mind. It is by K. Redfield Jamison, or Redfield, I don't know. And that, I think, is a great book for somebody with bipolar disorder to read, but it's also a great book. Like, I've purchased so many copies and given them to friends and boyfriends, and my mom has read it, and my mom said that it was the one book that really helped her understand as much as she could what I was going through, and like what my life was like. So I don't know, I'm trying to, I guess I could pull something up on the internet. Let me see real quick. I took notes from the book. I did it with the other one as well. The An Unquiet Mind. Okay, well, I wrote this because this is me, and this is something that has to do with bipolar. And this is a reason why I no longer drink. When I drink, my personality is sometimes altered to such an extent as to be destructive or disruptive. I could be funny, witty, the belle of the ball, but then the minute I'd get in the car to go home, I'd become venomous. Every vicious thing I could say, every injustice I could recall. I was Dr. Jekyll turning into Mr. Hyde. And, yeah, that was me. There's one night in particular where I could have gotten my boyfriend and myself and me into so much, not trouble, but it was just dangerous. We were driving home. I had gotten pissed off at him because he was pissed off at me, and I slapped him in the middle of the bar. And then we were driving home, and I kept trying to grab the wheel from him. And that's really all I remember. And that is one of the nights that I walked to the hospital, and because I didn't live that far from it. So I walked to the hospital and checked myself in overnight. Of course, they just thought I was drunk and didn't want to deal with any of the other things going on. But, I knew it was more, and I knew I needed to be in a safe place. And that is one thing that I'm really, really lucky in that I have always wanted to get better. For a really long time, I didn't know what was wrong, so I couldn't get better. It wasn't until I was 22 and checked myself into the hospital for 5 days when I was diagnosed with bipolar that they put me on the correct meds. I actually went into the hospital because I was in a mixed episode. So it's when you're manic and depressed at the same time, and it's just lovely. Because my family doctor had put me on Prozac, which is just an antidepressant, so all that does is just bump you up, 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 up. And he put me on Xanax for my anxiety. Well, I became addicted to Xanax. I mean, so much so to the point where I took 16 during one shift at work, and it basically did not affect me. So they switched me over to a different type of drug called Klonopin, and it works the same way, but it isn't so, like, doesn't, like, get you really, it doesn't, like, peak and then drop. It just slowly brings you, like, to where you need to be, and then you come, not down, but, the drug comes down, I guess. It has a longer half-life. I know I'm all over the place with this, but I'm just trying to get as much information out there that is important, without getting into too many details, but still trying to keep an overview with some details, and it's really not that easy. I do have some notes, and where are they? I rewatched Silver Linings Playbook the other day because A, I'm on a Bradley Cooper kick, and B, I really wanted to watch it because his character Patrick in the movie is undiagnosed bipolar, and he doesn't want to take his meds. So I took notes on that. And, there is a scene in the beginning of the movie, he grabs the steering wheel from his mom, and because she's trying to turn around and he's trying to stop her. And so I don't know, was that a violent outburst when I was grabbing the steering wheel, or was I just being irrational because of bipolar? I don't know. I am medicated now. I am medicated well, except for one medicine I want to switch because it's made me gain, about 15 to 20 pounds, and that's been a problem with medication. That's always a problem with like antidepressants or just any mental illness medications, and then it can lead to more depression because you're gaining weight and you're not feeling good about yourself. So I do want to change one medicine, but other than that, I am on lithium, which is a great mood stabilizer. I'm on Abilify, which helps boost the lithium without risking taking more lithium and getting lithium poisoning, because you have to have your levels tested all the time with lithium because you can be poisoned or it could become ineffective. So I'm on the Abilify to boost the lithium. I'm on Cymbalta. It's an antidepressant, but it also helps fibromyalgia pain, which is the reason he put me on it, because I do have fibromyalgia along with the lupus. But that is the drug that I want to get off of, and I would like to go on Prozac instead, because I've been on Prozac before and I know that it doesn't cause weight gain. So I'm on that, and then I'm also on Klonopin, and that's for anxiety. I take that twice a day. And then I am on Adderall. I take that twice a day, and that's for ADHD. I am not the hyper type. I am the inattentive type. So I always daydreamed in school and just, I don't know, there's different types of ADHD out there. There's different types of panic attacks. There's different types of everything. There are different symptoms for everything, which makes it really hard to diagnose and keep up with mental illness. And then, you know, the stigma attached to it, it just, people don't want to seek help. It just, it's all, I don't know. It all really sucks, to be honest with you. But, yeah, I am kind of an anomaly in the fact that I do want to get better, especially when it comes to when I had borderline personality disorder, because they think nothing's wrong with them. It's everybody else's fault. And that they don't have to do anything. It's the world against them. Like, you're a screw up, you did this to me, you know, I never did anything wrong. Like, that's how borderline thinking goes, and that's why I got into so many arguments, because I saw fault in other people all the time and didn't want to take any blame for myself. I didn't want to see, it was just completely one-sided, and it was just, it was bad. It was really, really bad. I mean, I'm not going to go into, like, too many details, like I said, but, I mean, it was really bad. At one point in high school, my mom said to me, she's just like, I don't know why so-and-so, I think my boyfriend's name was Mike at the time, she's like, I don't know why he's with you, because you treat him like crap, you know, and that was like the most my mental illness was recognized. That comment right there was the most it was recognized ever in my entire life until I was in my 20s. So, and that, I was the one who started bringing things forward. Nobody else ever noticed anything about me. If they did, they didn't say a word. So, I don't know. But with Silver Linings Playbook, he gets, you know, super focused on reading and getting his wife back, and he's up at 4 a.m. and he's ranting about this book, and, you know, so that's the, you know, he's getting all kind of manic. He's, like, happy, and happy's not necessarily good for someone who has bipolar disorder. I mean, you want to be happy, but you want to be realistically happy. You don't want to be too up. So, there's that, you know, then he gets violent, he resists blame, he resists med and therapy. He had paranoia, but he had delusions, weird thinking brought on by severe stress, and that is something that happens in, like I said, I took notes while watching the movie. And that is something that happens, but I thankfully am diagnosed with bipolar depression, bipolar type 1, mostly depressive, without psychotic features. That's what it is. So I've never had any kind of psychotic break like Patty Duke did. She had it many, many times. Patrick in Silver Linings Playbook, he had delusions, he heard things, he had grandiose ideation, he was manipulating, for sure, and that's another thing, that people with bipolar are pretty manipulative. They're generally smart people and can get away with doing the things that they do. They generally are intelligent people. And so people kind of let things slide. And because it's just like, oh, you have so much more potential than this, or this isn't really you acting this way. It's not like, oh, well, you're just a piece of shit anyway, so, you know, you acting like this is just making me, like, hate you more. It, like, makes people want to help you more, almost, it seems like. I had a boyfriend who really wanted to help me, but I didn't want help at the time because I thought I was fine, because the doctors, I had finally been diagnosed. He was with me when I went in the hospital for the 5-day stay, and I gotta stretch my leg out. Oh my gosh. He basically, like a year later, just wanted to fix me, and I didn't want to be fixed at all. I was taking my medicines, I was going to the therapy appointments, I was going to group therapy, I was doing everything I was supposed to do, except for I was drinking and smoking weed all the time. Like, it was ridiculous. So, but I was really just drinking. I was drinking every day. And so, of course, my medicines weren't working. You know, like, I was not stable. I was not doing well. And I mean, there were so many times that I would get in an argument with him, and he is like the nicest guy you could imagine. Like, I mean, there are reasons why in the long run I'm glad that we're not together, because it just wouldn't have worked. We're too different. But he is like one of the most decent people I've ever met. He was an amazing person. He was a good friend. I was friends with him before we got together, and I left him for the guy who ended up being an abusive asshole who I married. So, and like I said, I don't know if that was like punishment. I don't know if it was punishment for like how I treated the great guy that I left and was with this person who treated me so horribly. At the beginning, he didn't. At the beginning, it was actually kind of strange. He made me feel really safe. But then that quickly changed, and I think I was really trying to punish myself. So, and I've been doing it ever since. And I actually was even doing it up until like, I don't know, somewhat recently. I don't want to give a time frame or anything, because I don't really, where I just, it's basically like self-sabotage. Like, I feel like I don't deserve to be happy, so I screw things up. But I'm coming to terms with the fact that, you know what, I'm happy with where I am in life. I'm happy with Mike. I'm so happy with my kid, my relationship with her. I'm happy with my relationship with my mom, my best friend. You know, I keep my circle extremely tight. I do have other friends, but I, you know, don't necessarily like trust the majority of them to, you know, with anything personal at least. But yeah, my best friend, Mike, my mom, they're the ones that I lean on, and they're the ones that, my best friend actually also has bipolar 1, and so that's something that we can talk about, and she didn't used to be very good about her medicines, but she is now, so I'm closer with her now, because I know I can trust her more. But anyway, I don't know. There's another book I wanted to mention, just because I mentioned 2 books about bipolar. There are 2 books on borderline, and the one was I Hate You, Don't Leave Me by Gerald J. Kreisman, MD, and Hal Strauss. And then this one is like the best. I'm only halfway done with it, and I've been reading it for years because it keeps getting put away and I just keep forgetting about it. It's called Get Me Out of Here: My Recovery from Borderline Personality Disorder. And if it'll focus, I had my hand on it there. So I was totally cut off and did not realize that I was. But I guess I was talking about Get Me Out of Here: My Recovery from Borderline Personality Disorder. And I'm just going to read the back of it. Borderline Personality Disorder. Well, actually it says a lifeline. The book is a lifeline if you suffer from borderline personality disorder, and it's a godsend for your loved ones. Borderline personality disorder. What in the hell was that? Raged Rachel Ryland after discovering the term on her discharge papers from the hospital psychiatric ward. As the 29-year-old accountant, wife, and mother of young children would soon learn, borderline personality disorder, BPD, was the diagnosis that finally explained her explosive anger, manipulative behaviors, and self-destructive bent, including devastating episodes of substance abuse, anorexia, and sexual promiscuity. With astonishing honesty, Ryland reveals what mental illness feels like and looks like from the inside. Her story is horrifying, but in the end, hopeful, offering living proof that healing from this tenacious psychiatric disorder is possible through intensive therapy and the support of loved ones. So, I mean, it's a really thick book, but it's a really great book. So, and then I have one more that has to do strictly with depression. And I mean, I know there's a lot of books out there that are about depression, but there are a lot of people who are suffering from depression. And this one is from William Styron. It's Darkness Visible, a Memoir of Madness. And it's from 1990, but so some of the terms are a little different. But then again, some of the terms are different. Like in books you'll read about bipolar, they'll say manic depression. So even the Patty Duke one. So it just depends. You know, I mean, it all means the same thing. But in 1985, William Styron fell victim to crippling and almost suicidal depression, the same illness that took the lives of Randall Jarrell and Primo Levi, Vincent van Gogh, and Virginia Woolf. That Styron survived his descent into madness is something of a miracle. That he manages to convey its tortuous progression and his eventual recovery with such candor and precision makes Darkness Visible a rare feat of literature, a book that will arouse a shock of recognition even in those readers who have been spared the suffering it describes. So it's really short, really, really short. It's like 84 pages. So if you or somebody is suffering from depression, this one is honestly a really, really good one to read. But I'm not sure what else I said. But I'm just glad that I have gotten better, that I understand my illnesses better, that I recovered from borderline personality disorder. Like, even now, like, I can still remember the day that he took it off my chart, and it's just, it's still so exciting. Like, I mean, to beat something that most people do not beat. And it's because I stuck with my medicines. I mean, like I said, you can't take medicine for borderline, but I stuck with my medicines for bipolar and anxiety and depression and everything. And anytime I had a problem, if I still had a doctor's appointment booked like way far away, because he books, like the day you have an appointment with him, you book your next appointment and it's 4 months out, because that is how far out he's booked. You miss an appointment, you're screwed. So you end up having to see a nurse practitioner, and you're there like all day long waiting for him to come and see you for a few minutes, and it's bad. So anyway, I do meditation. That is a huge thing. Mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness, that is what the behavioral therapy is for borderline. I don't see a therapist right now, but I know that I probably should. And I'm going to talk about it at my next appointment. I'm going to get a referral to see one so that insurance will pay for it. Because if I just make an appointment, then I will have to pay for it out of pocket. But yeah, I see my doctor, I meditate, I take my medicines, I pay attention to how I'm feeling. I'm really on top of how I'm feeling, and it's just all so serious that the reason I went on a little rant the other day, and I saw that somebody unfollowed me because of it, they disliked the video and they unfollowed me. But, you know, to each their own, whatever. I went on a rant about, like, you know, mental illness and mental health problems being cool now. It's because people use anxiety and everything else as an excuse these days. And yes, I understand that it's running rampant, but is that because it really is? Or are people just using it as an excuse? People really know what it's like to feel completely debilitated to where you can't function, like you can't get things done that you need to do just on a daily basis. I can't say, you know, but I don't want mental illness not to be taken seriously because so many people are claiming to have it in some form or another, I guess, was just what my rant was the other day. It wasn't, you know, I wasn't saying, no, they don't have it or this or that, but it's like YouTubers who can't post a video for a month because they have anxiety, and it's like, you're making 6 figures, you know, I'm talking about bigger YouTubers, like, you're making 6 figures, you're making a lot of money, and you can't even put a freaking video out. The videos are what got you your money, you know? Be grateful, be thankful, be there for your subscribers. So, I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on that. But this is going to be the longest video on mental health because I'm probably not going to cut much out. So I tend to be able to say what I want to say without too much extra stuff, superfluous stuff. So this is probably going to be about a 50-60 minute video. I don't know. But anyway, I'm just going to end it here because I really don't know what else I was saying. I don't know what else to say. And I just want to thank you all for watching if you are still here right now. If you just watched any of it, oh, I don't know. It's just all, it's really close to my heart, mental illness and the stigma and the things that people go through, you know, it's all close to my heart. It's all, you know, I've been there. I'm still there. I'm doing better, but I'm not great. I'm never going to be. It's like my lupus. Like, it's incurable. You know, I can manage it. I can deal with it when it gets really bad, but it doesn't mean it's ever going to go away. It's just not. So, thankfully, the borderline is something that is able to be cured, and I wish more people knew that. But yeah, I just want to thank you for watching, and like I said, I'm going to leave it here because I don't know what got cut out, and so yeah, that's apparently all I have for this video. So I will see you in my next one. But before that, if you liked this, please give me a thumbs up just so I know. Like, I don't keep my likes public or dislikes, but but I see them. So it'll let me know if, this video was a big flop or if it helped people. Leave me a comment. Please, please, please. Would love for this to turn into some sort of conversation, or at least just, back and forth with a couple people. And yeah, that is it, I suppose. I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, guys.